wabarakatuh. This is Ijaz and you're watching RRV News. RRV News.
Today's news headlines are: Myanmar's military coup prolongs misery for Rohingya in Rakhine. Rohingyas in Myanmar are under fear. Details of the news. Mostly Muslim minority find themselves target of renewed military intimidation amid accommodation with rebel armed group. In early August, military officials assigned to Rakhine State by Myanmar's general summoned leaders from the mainly Muslim Rohingya community in Bushidang Township to a meeting on the banks of the Mayu River. The officials came with a warning: Rohingya villagers should cut off any ties with the Arakan Army AA, which is an armed rebel group fighting for self-determination for ethnic minorities in the country's northwest. Currently, we are participating all together in the AA's administration because the AA is acting with equality and love for all of us, a village administrator from the Muslim community in Bushidang told to the journalist, adding that the Rohingya have so far ignored the military's request, amid concern that the political crisis triggered by the February 1st military coup could descend into civil war, and as a ceasefire in the restive northwestern state begins to falter. The country's oppressed Rohingya minority is looking vulnerable once again. In November last year, there were mass arrests of Rohingya trying to leave Rakhine. New draconian restrictions on their freedom of movement and intimidation from military officials about the dangers of collaborating with AA, which mainly represents ethnic Rakhine Buddhists. Currently, our township is stable, but we don't know when fighting will start, so we are always living together in fear, said a 47-year-old Rohingya resident of Bushidang, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of arrest. It has long been illegal for Rohingya to travel outside of the state, with those who breach the rules risking a 2-year prison sentence. But the deteriorating situation means more are tried. In late November, the Myanmar Navy seized a boat near the state capital Sittwe that was traveling from Mandu to Malaysia, arresting more than 200 Rohingya who were on board, including 33 children. Earlier that month, 55 Rohingya were arrested after making it as far as Yangon, which is Myanmar's biggest city. The military leadership appears to be introducing harsher punishments, with local media reporting on December 15 that a court sentenced the Rohingya arrested near Sittwe to 5 years in prison for breaching the law. In 2017, the Myanmar military unleashed a brutal crackdown on Rohingya civilians, sending at least 700,000 fleeing into neighboring Bangladesh amid reports of killings, torture, rape, and arson. Most remain there trying to survive in the world's largest refugee camp. Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi, who was then the country's de facto leader until the coup, ignored appeals from rights groups and the international community to condemn the violence, even defending the military against accusations of genocide at the International Court of Justice (ICJ). But when Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy (NLD) government was overthrown in February, concern grew that the situation for the Rohingya could once again deteriorate. The Rakhine militant AA Arakan Army wants greater political autonomy for the northwestern state. Relations between Rakhine and the Rohingya communities have historically been strained, with frequent outbursts of inter-ethnic violence. Some Rakhine civilians were implicated in attacks on Rohingya villages in the 2017 crackdowns, and the AA referred to Rohingya armed groups as a savage Bengali Muslim terrorist, using a common pejorative to imply Rohingya are undocumented immigrants from Bangladesh. The militant agreed to an uneasy ceasefire with the military in November 2020, after 2 years of brutal civil war that left nearly 90,000 displaced and hundreds of civilians dead. In March last year, the military removed the AA from its terrorism list, but the AA has now committed to building an administration that includes the Rohingya, and reports of recent skirmishes have raised questions about how much longer the truce will hold. Another administrator in Kyokto Township said armed military authorities summoned administrators from 6 Rohingya villages in September. He said the officials did not explicitly threaten them or outline any consequences if they worked with the AA, but the fact they were armed meant the experience was intimidating. And then they said, "Don't work with the AA to solve any problems. We are really afraid of them at the time because they have weapons. We couldn't tell them much, and they said again and again not to work with AA," he recalled. Like the administrator in Bushidong, he said the AA has been helping the Rohingya and treating them fairly, but he also noted that the military distracted by a nationwide uprising against their rule, the AA had been able to quietly consolidate territory and expand administrative control over Rakhine. While mainly urban areas remain under military control, most rural areas are under the AA's administration, and the armed group also has partial influence over Situate. Recent fighting has been focused in Mondu, near the border. Currently, Junta council members are afraid to come to our village district, the administrator said, because it was under AA control. Arakan Army spokesman Kaintuka said he was aware of the military's attempts at intimidation, accusing the military of trying to control the population via oppressive mechanism. Not only the Muslims but also all people in Rakhine state are still being threatened by the military every day. As much as we can, we are trying to provide security, justice and harmony for all of the people in Rakhine state, he told to the journalist. Since the Khob ethnic Rakhine people have also been subjected to increased travel checkpoints, and some have been arrested or questioned on suspicion of supporting anti-military resistant groups.
If you are satisfied by our news channel, it's a humble request to subscribe our channel and press the bell icon. Like and share our videos. If you have any suggestions, please comment to us. Wassalam.